Chaz Manley here with your evening report. It is now day 1189 of quarantine because everybody can't get along and listen.
Well,
sorry,
in other news, Rebecca, herpes seems to be on the rise as more and more folks are not covering their face or their genitals. And unfortunately, everything is spreading like Sam's opinions.
Do you know where your chinchilla goes at night? Tune back later for more.
It goes into the, Watkins closet.
Hi.
And by the eternal, behold.
Behold!
It is the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
And it's been a minute since we have had this happen, but I am very pleased to announce we actually have a sponsor this week, gentlemen.
Oh my lord.
And it's very important. This is something that needs to be perpetuated, and I was more than willing to get on board. I think the both of you will back me here. But today, the Disinformed podcast is being brought to you by the law offices of Shtup and Fuck Off. This is their message. If you or your loved one has been refused entry into a private business for not wearing a face mask, and you are seeking to explore legal options to protect your constitutional rights, our law firm at Shtup and Fuck Off is happy to explain just how fucking stupid you are. Call us at 1-888-GO-FUCK-YOURSELF.
Yeah, I'm proudly sponsored.
Yes.
That was
110%.
actually shared. My glorious significant other showed that to me this morning. That is posted on an actual office here in Phoenix.
Love it.
Someone put that on their law office window, and they have been getting some very interesting reviews based on that text. I peppered it because it's me, and I can't help myself.
Right. Speaking of people who are too stupid to wear a mask, I meant to talk to you guys about this last week, but I kind of spaced it. In the adventures of my internet trolling, I have coined a new phrase, and I want you guys to tell me if you think it's effective. Like, if someone responded to you with this, or if you saw someone get responded to with this, if it would, be like, ooh, damn, get him, Dad. But I've been telling people that they strike me as the kind of fellow that wipes before they poop.
It's reasonable.
Okay.
I don't
feel
know.
like I almost need the context for it, but like it seems
I don't know.
like
I was
it has,
just thinking about it.
I don't know. Maybe it's just not clicking with me.
What context do you need to provide that typically one wipes following shitting, Michael? That's the normal sequence of
Okay,
things.
so let me paint a picture here.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
It is.
Please don't use poop.
It is 4 years ago, and the Avengers are heading to Sokovia. I don't have anything else. I've just been binging the whole thing. So. But anyway, so yay, nay, indifferent.
I like
I'd
it.
say yay. Yeah. I just for some reason it didn't click immediately for me.
I feel like it's
I'm
almost
going-
as effective as calling him a simpleton.
Yeah.
It's full approval on my
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
here.
yeah,
No
yeah.
question.
Mm-hmm.
I have an interesting reminiscence to touch on here, John, before we get into the actual show proper.
Love the first album.
Oh, really? I didn't really appreciate it as much as I should have in the moment, but, on further listens, after the first blush, I think it's sheer genius.
Yeah,
Really
long
is.
live Reminiscence.
Yes, that's what we're all angling for. It's just to
boy.
be very bright and then waste away. Our single was played on the radio this morning.
It was.
What?
It's a Wednesday, July the 1st. We were featured on KWSS here in the Valley. A shout out to them. We love them dearly, so thank you. But
Aw,
do you
that's
know?
awesome.
Did you see the song that preceded us on the radio?
Teach Me English Again.
It was Alt J.
Oh, okay, yes, sorry. I literally woke up at 9:25 and just sat up in bed because my radio dial doesn't. It's a low FM for them,
Okay.
so it doesn't I can't use my tuner downstairs for it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty funny that.
I felt that was a story that certainly is worth telling at some point, and so I think it's a very bizarre time capsule for us to get into. I would say at least maybe 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago.
Zuckerberg's self-recording device told me correctly this morning, probably 5 or 6.
Okay, so we were in the grand city of Clarksville.
Clarksville.
I'm trying to... Yes, Clarksville. Welcome to Clarksville. And John was attempting to test the wherewithal of his swizzle stick with a rather unseemly young woman. And whilst he was doing this, I, the ever-vigilant wingman, was stuck talking to this woman's mother.
Oh,
that's right. I totally forgot about this.
She was higher than giraffe pussy the entire time. And so John is attempting to put the make on this poor girl. And so they're bopping back and forth between, the bar, the table, the restroom, the bar.
This is the lounge, right? The lounge bar across from the... Okay, got it.
Yeah. And so this entire time, I'm stuck with this woman who is on the most morphine-addled Mobius strip I have ever encountered in the entirety of my adult life, where she continues to tell me on repeat about this band, Alt J, and they all dropped acid together and had a shared experience, and they wrote an album about it. Have you heard of them? Like, no. Haven't at all. Have no frame of reference. And then there would be, 20 to 35 seconds of discourse about other things. And then, as though the Chucky doll reset, she would stop and go, oh, this song reminds me of this band called Alt J. Have you heard of them?
I didn't even work in the industry then. So I didn't, and I wasn't really aware of your suffering because you were being very gracious and taking that heat from me so that I could focus on other things that never played out. But that is the kind of shit that I do not miss about serving dumb assholes booze, is getting the repeating kind of bit going on. Now, that also was the same bar and hopefully... Get out. Same night. Oh my goodness. We should ask Sam, and I know that we're doing the time travel-y bit of nonsense, but
yes,
we should ask Sam if she remembers this night as well, because I think it's a coin toss if she does or doesn't. But yeah, Shane, you also got open-handed 60 mile per hour slapped across the face, and for the first time in your life, it wasn't because you said anything offensive. It was you just answered a question honestly and earnestly, and you got punished for it.
According to this woman, it was offensive, in general principle. At the time, Michael, to clarify, I was very beardy. So I was kind of in a robust facial hair stage. And this woman, we've known for quite some time.
Still talk to her now.
Yeah, so we played in Clarkdale a lot, and for some reason, she just, got a little tipsier than usual, or I had never been around her post-shift.
Probably.
And so she and Sam became booze buddies, which is not difficult to do with Sam as long as you're, a willing taker. She will drink with you.
This is old Sam too, old Sam.
Yeah, last week.
I was like, wait, there was a version of Sam that drank even more than she does now?
Sadly, yes, that does exist.
Mother of pearl.
The two of them were matching drink for drink, so I'm fairly certain that they were on, 25 to 30 by this point. And so the lady in question asked me if I had watched Vikings, because my beard is very reminiscent of, the characters on Vikings. And there's a particular guy that she thought I looked like. And I went, no, just casually offhand, no, I've never seen Vikings. I don't really watch television. And as I'm getting through, I don't really watch television. And John can probably tell this better since he witnessed the action.
Oh, well, I didn't witness this so much as I heard it. Because I was still, now that you're piecing the night together for me with your remarkable sober brain, I was still trying to fit it in back at the other booth with the mom and daughter show. But all I hear over the music in the bar is the smack, and I run to Shane, and just because it's not like I've been in a lot of fights or whatever, but that carnal rage.
I'm ready to go.
You see it flash over Shane's face for a second. I'm putting my hand on his chest, and we're just kind of comprehending what the fuck just happened.
Yeah, so as I'm saying, I don't really watch television. She just hauled off, drew back, and completely slapped me across the face.
To this day, there's only one more slap that was as, if not a little more vicious, but in that case, it was a game, and they were asking to be slapped harder, and that was Logan at one of our shows at Cornish Pasty. Him, there's two gals and him, and I don't know how they got on the conversation or like the dare, but he's drunk. It's like 1:00 at night. We just got done playing for like 2 hours and just smack.
How many buttons was he down?
3. He was 3-button Logan.
Oh God,
yeah.
we were 3-button Logan. Oh, that's dangerous territory.
Man, that's too much.
Shit you not, like I'm loading out my amp and my cases, and I just hear whip, 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 and I look, and it's like almost like a comic strip of him just getting his face slapped one way and then the other. And he's laughing, he's giggling, and then he gets a particular, or like a hard slap, and he just like puts out his hand, he's like, and in his deadpan voice, he's like, okay, well, I think that's enough now, thanks.
Michael, are you familiar with the sliding scale of Logan inebriation? Have we helped you to that one yet?
I do believe I've been privy to some of that, but I've never heard of the actual formal definition.
You can gauge how deep into the evening Logan is and just how hilarious things are about to get by the number of buttons. He typically is wearing a button-down shirt at our shows. The number of buttons he's unbuttoned. So if he's below 2, shit's about to get real.
Oh, goodness.
That's the thing, is that him and we get the same kind of drunk where it's like, it's kind of stealthy. It's not like loud like Sam. Like,
right.
If you pay close enough attention, you'll realize that it's happened. But if you just like play the night, as you're playing the cards as usual, you'd be like, oh, well, he was just a little like slap happier. That's all.
Well, as someone who has observed this happen on many occasions and has been, at its folly on multiple times, this is the easiest way to describe it. When inebriated, both John and Logan turn into, in the Ghostbusters oeuvre, Slimer. Mostly just hurling things at their face, mildly inoffensive. They will occasionally fling fluids at you that you get to deal with, and you get to turn to friends and family and go, he slimed me. That's them. Sam is the Stay Puft Marshmallow bitch, and will just... churlumping over city blocks, crushing everything in her wake. That's the difference between them. And Asher basically is just sitting in the corner the entire time, the librarian, doing a slow cuck on everyone else in the room. So those are the different, paranormal activities I deal with on a week-by-week basis.
I would argue that Asher is the same person, drunk or stoned. He'll just, like, especially if it's like after a show and like there's other people on after us, like he'll just stand there. And he'll close his eyes, and he'll just be bobbing his head to the groove, and that's all he needs to do. Like, I remember he had to go to work the following morning after we played the holiday show with Bear Ghost, and he had no intention of staying at all. Like, not one bit. He's like, I'm probably like 30 minutes and I gotta go. And he ended up having a blast, so he had a couple beers, and I think he probably hit Sam's pen or something, and that man looked like as happy as you should be around the Christmas season.
That's awesome. Shoot.
Well, before we get into your topic, Shane, I don't know if I haven't decided if I want to do this full out.
Do it.
Oh, look at me not being prepared. I was gonna say maybe I would have a topic to present in the future.
What?
And
bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what? Hold on, because if it was a topic, then it'd be super super short, which would kind of fit the whole thing. And I didn't even think about it. I didn't even learn about it until last night. So if Shane already knows a bunch about it, I already assume Michael doesn't. Then I won't do it. But if not, then I'll look into it and I'll write something up. But did you know that Wesley Snipes was originally going to make a Black Panther movie like back in '92?
I did not know this.
No.
Hell yeah. Well, bookmark this. You can clip it. I'll make a presentation.
I will literally save that clip and just post it on our Facebook chat. Because that's what I do whenever I hear funny shit coming out of your mouth when I edit.
You do send those clips. The amount of times that I've said clip that about something Shane said, and then the amount of times that I've received just me going, I have
Well,
not once gotten a Shane clip, but I've gotten me sounding like a heathen every single week.
If only we had your ex-girlfriend on here, we could say, clip that.
I'm gonna leave that alone. Tell them what we do. Let's get through this.
If you could leave that clit alone, we'd all be in a safer place right now, my friend.
Ooh-wee.
So, what we usually tend to do here on our continuing mission for Stargate here is we go into an esoteric topic that is relevant to either us or something happening in the current contemporary culture. And we will discuss it at length. The presenter of the topic essentially is going to try to give you a little soupçon about something esoteric, and in the midst of doing so, we'll lie about it just slightly to make it interesting. It is incumbent upon the co-hosts to then point out the lies in the moment and trap them in situ, yell posse and point at them, and say interloper. And that's what the game is. There are no points, nothing matters because no one can win. We live in the United States.
I was going to say, it's basically the 2020 of concepts. It practically doesn't exist, and it doesn't matter.
We're a nation of losers. Speaking of which, fan fusion isn't happening this year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw that.
So we'll just rip the Band-Aid and get that out of the way. But, we'll find a way to make what we were going to do at fan fusion happen.
Oh, we'll just
here
do
on the
actual
podcast.
episodes. Yeah.
And I think that's going to be beautiful.
Well, then I guess I won't wait until May of 21 to finish The Dark Tower.
Yeah, you might want to get on that, Holmes.
Yeah.
So, if you gentlemen are ready, I will tell you that as of right now, technically, my topic this week will contain 3 lies.
Cool.
The topic in question, and I'm not sure if Michael saw this in the document.
Nope.
Is the birthplace of horror.
What? I'm stoked.
Do I have you intrigued?
You do. Is this because of your Shudder free trial that you had?
No, not at all. Strangely enough, I've yet to touch it.
Okay.
So I still look forward to that.
Oh, sorry.
No, please dive in.
Did they snag you back with a free month?
I haven't tried Shudder yet. I still have not dipped my toe in the
I
water.
you had.
No, because I am still balls deep in the Stephen King oeuvre. I am 400 pages through Finders Keepers right now.
Gotcha. Well, I did a 7-day trial of Shudder to watch like a episode of Creep Show and then just kind of see what it was about. And then I did the usual, like the 7 days were up, and I was like, all right, cool, gonna go cancel. And they're like, they got me in. They're like, we'd hate to see you go. Would you like a month for free? And I was like, you dumb bitch.
I'm in.
We hate to see you go, but we love to watch you leave. Would you like to have a month free?
But I will say so far that it's pretty worth it for a horror fan, which this, I guess, is kind of related because you're going to be telling me the history, but they have a lot of documentaries on the history of horror, like why we enjoy horror movies as a society. They have one that I'm interested in seeing, but I've never seen the film that they're documenting. They have one about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which they have referred to as the most queer Nightmare on Elm Street entry of all time. What is that, patent in it?
It is Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Electric Boogaloo, I believe, is the subtitle for that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, please, lie to me about history.
Oh, I plan to. So, interestingly enough, the details that I'm going to give you on this revolve around an odd collection of events here, an interesting set of circumstances. Don't Bullshit. You do it. I could see it happening. So, the first trembling tendrils of what we would classify as literary horror sprouted from a fabled, though often grossly exaggerated, evening of storytelling that took place on a stormy night in Switzerland in 1816.
It wasn't stormy.
It was very much stormy.
It was a bright, sunny night.
Sorry, I had a little bit of cum in my throat.
Well, yeah, that happens. On this legendary night, a cluster of young writers, poets, and their associates gathered in a small hunting cabin and, unwittingly, gave birth to a collection of tales that would dramatically impact the literary landscape to this day. Our story begins with Mary Shelley.
Oh.
The daughter of philosopher and political writer William Godwin and famed feminist author Mary Wollstonecraft, Shelley herself became a writer of immense fame and repute following the events detailed here. In 1814, Mary began a relationship with poet Percy Bessie Shelley, who I am very interested in telling you gentlemen is one of the biggest philandering fuckheads you will ever hear about in the entirety of human existence. And we could do this on another episode, but this man is a rare piece of shit.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
All too infrequently do you hear about the, cuckold poets throughout the run of human history, but this gentleman enjoyed slanging the wang, as a fella says.
Okay.
So, Percy Shelley was, at the time, a devoted student of her father, but soon shifted his attention to Mary after meeting her. He happened to still be married to his first wife when he and the then teenaged Mary fled England together that same year. The couple was accompanied at the time by Mary's stepsister, Jane Clairmont. Mary's actions alienated her from her father subsequently, and he refused to speak to her for quite some time. So,
yeah.
Mary and Percy began to travel around Europe at this time. They struggled financially, as you do when you're a vagabond individual roaming about the
I
wilds.
was going to say, I feel like that's like part of the ingredients to any of these stories.
Yeah, if you're going to be an artist, you're basically just going to be hand to mouth, and hopefully that's, something other than your hands going
There
in there.
will be suffering.
There will be blood.
Suffer for your art.
So they faced the loss of their first child in 1815. Mary delivered a baby girl who only lived for a few days. And so there's our uplifting moment for the episode.
Right.
If a child
touching.
doesn't die over the course of our discussion here, I feel like we've somehow missed a mark.
Why is it always you, though? Why is
Well, I want humans to die in general. Children just happen to be a byproduct because they're loud and they smell funny.
Yeah, I didn't have any children dying in my last episode. I had children, but not die.
So you didn't have the sprinkles on top of the ice cream.
Yeah, no. It's the, that whole scene, we laugh because Melissa really loves Jurassic Park, but when they get to the Dr. Grant terrifies the child with the raptor claw at the beginning.
That's you.
It is me. She always tends to just turn and look at me as kind of like, a breed of child, Dr. Grant, might be interesting. They smell. Baby smell. All right, so the following summer, the Shelleys traveled through Europe along the Rhine in Germany, stopping at Gernsheim, which is 17 kilometers away from Frankenstein Castle. That's 11 miles for all of you, Americans.
Is it actually called Frankenstein Castle?
It was actually called Frankenstein Castle.
Okay.
I only speak freedom units, so thank you for confirming.
America.
You're welcome. So, where 2 centuries prior, at Castle Frankenstein, a noted alchemist engaged in deranged experimentation. She then journeyed to the region of Geneva, Switzerland, the setting where the bulk of Frankenstein's plot is staged. The topic of galvanism and occult ideology were themes of conversation amongst her companions, particularly her lover and future husband, Percy B. Shelley. Joining them in Switzerland were Lord Byron, another famed poet.
I would love to do a thing on him.
Oh, I bet you would like to do something on him.
I bet he would love to do that to me.
There are some interesting cross-sections here that I think Michael's going to be very piqued by as we proceed here. So Lord Byron and his doctor, attending physician, John Polidori, who added several other critical characters to our tale here. I had to sort of reconcile a lot of accounts in order to get this, so I have whipped this up with a little prose dust here. I beg your indulgence. So I had to whip this together on my own. But Polidori was one of the earliest pupils at the recently established Ampleforth College, subsequently attending the University of Edinburgh, where he wrote a thesis on sleepwalking and received his degree as a doctor of medicine on August 1st, 1815, at the age of 19. I know. Trust me. It gets even more frustrating.
You always gotta have, like, one smart genius nerd.
Oh, it gets better. Wait. So in 1816, Dr. Polidori entered Lord Byron's service as his personal physician. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, big-eyed stare at the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
And accompanied him on his trip through Europe. Notably, publisher John Murray offered Polidori 500 English pounds to keep a diary of their travels, owing to his companion's notoriety at the time. At the Villa Diodati, a house Byron rented by Lake Geneva in Switzerland. I don't know why I made it Italian, even though we're getting Swiss here. Arrivederci. I speak the next most Swiss.
Buongiorno.
Scusi.
Buongiorno.
Bon Jovi, yes. So, at the house that Byron rented by Lake Geneva in Switzerland, the pair were met by Wollstonecraft Godwin, otherwise known as Mary Shelley, her husband-to-be Percy, and their companion, Mary's stepsister, Jane Clairmont. Clairmont was accompanied on this particular evening by a young British biologist who just happened to be another aspiring young writer by the name of H.G. Wells. The two had met at one of her father's lectures months prior.
Bullshit to the H.G. Wells?
Pourquoi?
Because you said this was 1816, and I know that he was invited to the Scopes monkey trial 110 years after that.
Wasn't Orson Welles invited?
I thought it was H.G. Wells.
You said Orson Welles. It was the actor.
Okay, all right. So I'll re-specify because I know Time Machine was written in about the turn of the century.
1897 was when it was published.
Yes. So he wrote it when he was old as shit.
Trust me, it gets weirder. You're continuing to squint at me. Now, here's the question.
We don't hold on to the lies here. It's a give 'em up. So if Shane hasn't given him up, then I think we're...
I know. That's why I just narrowed my eyes and didn't say anything else.
Well, I will tell you. H.G. Wells is bullshit.
Oh!
But not for the reasons you're calling out, though.
Fair.
The cross-section is... that Orson Welles is the one who performed the War of the Worlds, and he, I believe, is the one who they asked to go to the monkey trial, if I'm recalling.
Fairly certain it was H.G.
You presented
Wells,
it, so obviously. Long story short, too late.
Future me will look it up.
In any event, the two had met at one of her father's lectures months prior and sparked a short-lived romance. A futurist, Wells would go on to write a number of utopian works and foresaw the advent of aircraft, tanks, space travel, nuclear weapons, satellite, television, and something resembling the World Wide Web.
He also foresaw Shane fucking my mom.
No, there was no one present for that, other than God and the devil. So his science fiction imagined time travel, alien invasion, invisibility, and biological engineering. On a stormy night in June, after the company had read aloud from Phantasmagoriana, say that 5 times fast,
Phantasmagoriana,
a French collection of German horror tales, Byron suggested they each write a short story. Percy Bessie Shelley penned A Fragment of a Ghost Story, and also transcribed 5 stories recounted by Matthew Gregory Monk Lewis, which were published posthumously as they journal at Geneva, including ghost stories.
So that was his nickname, Monk?
Yes, his nickname his nickname, as indicated here in quotes, is Monk.
Okay.
So Monk Lewis, back in 1815, technically. It was at this time that the idea for Mary Shelley's most famous novel, Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, germinated. After ruminating for days about the blustery evening's ghost stories, Shelley dreamt about a scientist who created life and was horrified by what he made, inspiring the novel. Shelley's interactions with death, both with the loss of her mother at a young age, her child with Percy around this time, as well as the suicides of her half-sister Fanny, and Percy's abandoned wife. Yes, when Percy left his wife alone and they went gallivanting through Europe, she killed herself within a year of this occurring.
Oof.
Lots of fun. Yeah. So saying, marrying this readily with the tales of the German alchemist she had recently been treated to, this formed a fairly solid foundation for her later tale. Lord Byron wrote and subsequently abandoned a fragment of a story, adequately and appropriately titled A Fragment, featuring the main character Augustus Darvel, which Apollodore later used as the basis for his own tale, The Vampire, which appears to be the first published modern vampire story in English. Wells, it was told, recounted a story that evening of a mad scientist who devoted himself to research into optics and invents a way to change his body's refractive index to that of air so that it neither absorbs nor reflects light, and thus becomes invisible. He successfully carries out this procedure on himself, but fails in his attempt to reverse it. Going insane from a lack of human interaction and spurred by his total anonymity due to his ghostly state, the character perpetuates a string of random and irresponsible violence upon the city of London. This is believed to be the birth of Wells' Invisible Man, though that story wouldn't be published until 1897, much later in his life. So this aspect of the story's creation may have been fabricated simply due to the association of the Invisible Man with Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman as a modern movie monster. Michael is looking at me in a peaked way.
No.
Oh, okay.
I was confused. What was the rude? I was still confused what the bullshit part of it was. That's why I was kind of like a little confused, I guess.
Well, that's why I was asking you to clarify what you felt was bullshit. So, did you feel that that Wells being there was bullshit, or did you feel that him being what were you calling bullshit on?
I was calling bullshit out of the fact that it was 1815, and I know that, and you had verified that he had published a lot of his works in the late 19th century, early 20th century.
Yes.
And so I find it very hard to believe that he was either there as other than just an absolute child, like a 5-year-old, or he was pretty much the oldest man alive when he started publishing his books.
Okay.
So the credulity, to put it bluntly, is that he was there at all.
Okay. And that is the bullshit.
Yes, so he was not there at all.
He was not there at all. So subsequently, the Invisible Man being a part of this evening's festivities, you could extrapolate would also be bullshit. I will give that to you because the one hinges on the other.
Man,
Fair.
Thank you, Michael. I think that's a home run you had there, pal, because I had that in the back of my head of like, wait, I thought that we said that was bullshit, that he was there, but then Shane crafted it very well and like just played into, well, let's just see if they're going to remember that was bullshit.
If you want me to do the full unveil now.
He's fair. I did not specify what exactly was bullshit. I just said H.G. Wells was bullshit. I didn't specify it. That is, as like a ref or something like that, I would say that's definitely allowed. Because I wasn't specific about what the bullshit was.
I can further unveil here to even further this. H.G. Wells was born in 1860. So he was not even alive when this was occurring, but I was banking on whether or not either of you would have had sufficient enough experience with Wells to extrapolate that.
Well done.
Further interesting things abide. So, Polidori's conversation with Percy Bessie Shelley on June 15th, 1816, as recounted in The Diary, which is the stuff he sent back about Byron, also regarded as the origin or genesis of Frankenstein. They discussed principles, the nature of the principle of life. June 15, Shelley, etc., came in the evening.
As you do.
Afterwards, Shelley and I had a conversation about principles, whether man was to be thought merely an instrument. So, there is some debate about how the actual germination of the story began, but we'll touch on that a little bit further. Once dismissed as Byron's doctor, Polidori traveled in Italy and then returned to England. His story, The Vampire, which featured the main character Lord Ruthven, was published in the April 1819 issue of New Monthly Magazine without his permission.
Oops.
Whilst in London, he lived on Great Pulteney Street in Soho. Much to both his and Byron's chagrin, The Vampire, or The Vampire, was released as a new work by Byron. Byron's own vampire story, Fragment of a Novel or A Fragment, was published in 1819 in an attempt to clear up the confusion, but for better or worse, the vampire continued to be attributed to him.
Oh, man.
It is also believed that Polidori's story featured prominently as the inspiration of the quintessential vampire tale Bram Stoker's Dracula, which would coincidentally be published in 1897 along with Wells' Invisible Man. There is an argument in the literary community, espoused by Brian Aldiss in particular, which argues that each could be considered the first true science fiction story, depending upon if you want to look at Frankenstein from a more science fiction bend more than a horror story. And same thing with The Invisible Man. You could make an argument for either being science fiction or horror.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, however you classify the pieces born of that evening's raconteuring, it is most certainly a night which gave birth to a collection of tales that helped define the modern horror and science fiction genres, and serve as the catalyst for the now ubiquitous pastime of telling ghost stories around a fire to titillate and terrify one's companions. And I have here at the end of my notes, you can include a quick jaunt about Percy Shelley being a philandering fuckhead and drowning to death on a ship whilst he was with a friend. So he left Percy and went out on a quick sailing binge. It said that she dealt with his philandering ways for a good portion of their marriage. There were many instances of adultery, and then he drowned to death out at sea with a friend who had taken him out on a ship. But this is all from a biology, even more entertaining.
Biological perspective.
Exactly, from biography.com's discussion of Percy Shelley.
Wait, I thought it was Lord Byron that was lost at sea.
No. This is Shelley who was drowned.
I might be thinking.
They
I know
may
that...
have both died that way. I'm not the world's largest compendium of knowledge about Byron.
That's fair.
Either.
I looked up some stuff about Byron a long time ago. I know that he dealt with,
given your proclivities.
Hey, you shut your whore mouth.
You shut it for me.
Sex-working mouth.
Ooh, no. Yeah.
Come on, Stumblebum, get it over with.
But no, like I think he was lost. He might have been lost at sea while he was sailing toward the Greek,
Uranus,
Turkish.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
That hasn't
story.
been. Wait, that was discovered. Never mind.
Uranus.
I had to remember. Yeah, Uranus was discovered in the late 18th century.
Did you just purposely pronounce that wrong?
Uranus?
Uranus.
I'll show you some astrology here. All right.
Tomato, potato. It was almost called Planet George after the king, and he said nah. But anyway, continue.
You digress.
Is there more?
That was the end of my presentation. When I said I want to make these things short, you want to make them short. So
no, I like it. So we got 2. There was a third we didn't get though.
There was a third you did not get.
What was the third?
Any stabs?
Nah.
Oh, none.
I'm sitting up here with my 2, so...
I mean, technically, I gifted you 1. I mean, I will call that lie a wash because it hinged on the other. And we're still some speculation here, since you weren't very specific about what I was lying about, other than him being there. But, I mean, I'm crediting you. You sussed it out. And through, the best evidence that we could run is you deduced that he was probably not there.
Yes, so. I just didn't formally declare it. I did not declare said bullshit.
Oh, gracious.
I don't have any other ideas because I have heard at least a partial story. I know that they have crossed paths, like Shelley, both Shelleys and Byron. I know that they've crossed paths. And,
amongst other things, yes.
Yes, most certainly.
Now, in fairness, the last time we had a situation like this where John picked out a couple lies, I believe he said, "Suck it, Michael?" And he gloated, continually. So if you want to take another moment to sort of indulge in the fact that you got something where John didn't, please feel free.
Yeah, please.
No, I'll be the bigger man here, and that's what I'll gloat over. And
you still have a tiny dick, though.
I mean,
it all depends on how you use it.
That is Asher's number 1 response to me with anything.
I was going to be like, if you're doing needlework, I imagine it's probably very handy. There's many a pin
Stitching
cushion.
is very nice when you already have a needle point at the ready at any given point in time.
How? Death by 1,000 cuts.
I legitimately text Asher, I think it was last week or the week before, with just like, I was just like venting. I was like, man, bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And he responded back with a very thoughtful response of like, it was very like uplifting and very like, it's kind of the thing that you needed to hear at the time or see at the time. And he goes, yeah, as a passive observer, like, this is what I would do. And then 5 minutes later, he responded, you still have a tiny dick, though. And that's basically what he's been doing for years now, is making sure to really drive that one home, that I'm lucky that I have someone that loves me with this condition.
Well, when you have a tiny dick, you can't help but have to drive it home. I mean, that's really the only option you have.
And Shane, we could drive it home with one headlight.
Indeed. Who's going to drive you home tonight? The other lie is that Polidori's story, which was, coincidentally, that is true. It is considered the first vampire story committed. It did not, however, factor at all in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Bram Stoker had no connection to it whatsoever, doesn't acknowledge it. Primarily, Stoker owes a large portion of his inspiration to having met Armin Vambry, a Hungarian Jewish writer and traveler. Dracula likely emerged from Vambry's dark stories of the Carpathian Mountains. And if there are those of you who, any Ghostbusters aficionados amongst you, I'll loop it back into my earlier commentary. That was Vigo the Carpathian. Lord Vigo! That we're referring to here.
Oh, the portrait dude?
Indeed, the portrait dude.
The guy that gave me nightmares when I was a kid.
Yes, the one, he of the ascending forehead, who also was a villain in Die Hard.
That fucked me up when I was a kid. Not even, like, just to stress it again, like, didn't he come out of the painting?
Yes, he came out of the painting. Yeah. As he was attempting to steal the soul of a child and, put himself into it.
It was kind of dark.
Oh, it's real dark. Yeah. I mean, the first Ghostbusters isn't all sunshine, lollipops, and daydreams either, my friend. I mean, they get pretty dark there, too.
It is due a rewatch, that's for sure.
I do love those movies. So, long story short, too bloody late. That, ladies and germaphobes, I was just fascinated by the fact, I know it's apocryphal, and I've heard this discussed many times, where this was something where the origin of Frankenstein and, vampires in general, but when I've heard it, most folks tend to throw in that it's Dracula, or that it was inspired by Dracula, or there's always some sort of tendril that weaves through where people want to try to connect all the Universal monsters together. So right. I figured I could whip the Invisible Man in there, and not owing to the fact that my friend here is anal retentive about the weirdest things, not limited to which H.G. Wells being involved in a monkey trial.
I know dates that, like, it's only if they're dates from, like, the last couple of, like, centuries.
Well, that's
this year.
He just flashed to Michael, like, at home with his girlfriend, and he's like, actually, on date number 36, right after you had your second glass of punch, you said this. And that conflicts with what you said on date number 48.
That's far too linear for Michael. You need to have some hums and haws in there and then talk about weird astral planes that you visited before getting around to the point.
Well, you see,
sound like a stoner?
When I went into my quantum phaseizer, I saw that you were doing weird things in the realms.
Can we please make that canon that Michael has now been converted to the weird scientist from The Simpsons?
Oh my god.
The quite nice lady.
Wait, what do you hear when he talks?
I mean, mostly that. That's why you've actually canonized my headcanon.
We're so far in, and I know Michael's re-listened everything just for, like, quality and whatnot, but at some point, you have to think that you just created this podcast and brought us on just to roast you every single week.
Anything I start, it usually turns into that. That's why I'm okay with it, because it's living, so that's just how it goes.
I am not Jafar. I don't care what you say.
Oh, sorry. The Rock. It was supposed to be a Flintstones reference. I just
all
did
right.
it wrong.
Okay.
Well, that's life. That's what Michael says.
It's a living. Rock.
Hey, can you do that one more time, but sound even more sad?
Bra.
Bra?
Bra.
My name.
I was going to say, if he's been listening back to all the old episodes trying to find quality, that's why he's still listening, because he hasn't found it yet.
I stopped listening. I gave up.
I can understand. So, gentlemen, I believe that then Sigourney segues us into our new part of the show that John has elected to give a walking introduction to each week.
Ooh.
No, you're right, dog. I totally forgot that I said I was going to do that, so thank you for reminding me. And
that's what I'm here for.
All right.
We hold each other accountable. It's what friends do, I've heard.
All right, so how many voice actors are on this show?
I mean, at least a half.
Just one, and it's the guy with the best voice. Not trying to jerk you off too much there, Shane. But
you were talking about me. I thought you were talking about hair, Google Vogue over here.
And Michael has penned a script based off... Actually, it's just pulled directly from the world's worst fan fiction.
Which we actually covered in episode 25 of this glorious little podcast. So if you're keen on hearing the actual entirety of, what we're discussing, go back in the archives, pull that up, and give it a listen.
And every week, for the past 8 years, we've been diving through the script, and we're making the unofficial audiobook for My Immortal. I don't remember the author's name, but I don't. Ebony?
By Tara Gillespie is the author's name. Whether or not that is a true name is subject to debate.
I like that you've also listed the author as the main character, John. Well done.
They're one and the same to me. Yeah. So yeah, every week we read a few chapters from it. Michael has turned it into a play for the most part, or a screenplay.
Mm.
And
tried.
Yeah, I don't know. We read everything verbatim, typos and all. It's kind of the charm. So if you hear Shane, because he is our glorious narrator, if you hear him over or under pronunciating, it is to emphasize the mistakes, which are plentiful. And if you wanted to start a drinking game, and every time there was a typo, by the end of this first chapter, which is short,
you'd
die. Yeah, you would die of alcohol poisoning. But yeah, so I'll hand it on over to Shane, because I figure at this point he has a previously on, and I'm still working on maybe finding us some theme music to indicate the change, because I think that would be really fun to have a little ditty underneath us explaining what's happening before we get into My Immortal.
Have you listened to any of our episodes recently, John?
I haven't.
I put in music. I put in like a little like almost orchestral piece.
Let me rephrase. I'm thinking like if you played the theme of Harry Potter backwards and then put it through a megaphone that went into a pedal board and made it sound like farts. Like that's kind of what I want the theme music to be.
Like deep fry it so that it just sounds like just audio distortion.
So this is now U2 presents the Spider-Man musical, is what you're trying to get us to do.
If we could find a way to force it onto everybody's phones like they did with their last album, then absolutely. Anyway,
we'll find a way.
All apologies.
Well, now for this week's, forcing upon you audible nonsense, yipes. Here, we bring you the summation previously on My Immortal. Chapter 25. We begin with a whir of activity as an exhibited or excremented Ebony leaves Twisted Sinister's office with an as-of-yet unexplained dream, but with a pair of bi guys with taut thighs waiting for her in a hallway. Draco and Vampire reconvene with her in Draco Black Car, which may be some odd variation of Kit from Knight Rider as far as I'm aware. I'm not entirely certain.
I like that headcanon there.
They hit a heroin cabaret, spork, fly high and hide in a tree, and scree like there is no tomorrow to MCR. Vampire never left this fucking scene, and yet Ebony and Draco are somehow alone in the car and fervently tilling cloves and making the beast with two backs. Amidst the lusty cries of Draco's name, proclaiming OMFG like no woman having sex fucking ever, she slips midstream from orgasm to sleep to fever dream, as though experiencing the dying thoughts of a fucking morphine-addled cancer patient. In this dream, a black man is shooting two gothic guys. I don't care how you try to explain this, Michael. It's just exhibiting racism, which turn out to be, dun-dun-dun, Lucius Malfoy and Sirius Black. Names so dramatically misspelled that they bear no striking resemblance to the actual characters themselves. Which leads us, of course, to Chapter 26, which sees Vampire simply appear at the tree as though through some form of olfactory magic of like, I scent moist vagina on the air. I must away. Ebony then flirtily says hi and then sobs, like every well-adjusted young lass with a heroin addiction that I have ever encountered.
But why is she so perfect? Why is she so pretty?
Well, that's why she's crying, is it's just too much perfection on one human being. It's just a weight, it's a toll. So, she tells Vampire about this dream, and subsequently, since it is the parents, as claimed in this story, of both of these gentlemen, they run panicking to Dumbledore in the hopes that he will assist them in verifying the veracity of the vision. Bumblespork then asks how he's supposed to know Ebony's divisional. She then corrects him by saying she's not decisional, and we are living in a material world, and she is an immaterial girl. Fumbledore sends Pipple to investigate events. Ebony divides that the attack took place in Longdon. The gents are miraculously saved and brought to Hogwarts entirely off-screen, so we needn't be burdened with any cumbersome exposition. No. Vampire slinks off to slit his wrists because nothing resolves any anxiety like bloodshed. Ebony and Draco spy Sirius and Lucius being wheeled in, followed by Professor Sinister, which leads us to Chapter 27, subtitled Vampires Will Never Hurt You, which sees everyone, of course, weeping tears of joy or blood, depending upon your preference, at Ebony's heroic act of running and telling someone else to do something, who also runs and tells other people to do something.
Yep.
Heroism at its finest. Whilst everyone celebrates the safe return of Sirius and Lucius, Professor Sinister snags Ebony and indicates that she has to tell her the perdition. Or, in fact, the fucking perdition. Happy smells occur, black cards, and a crucible ball are used to determine that Drake times are ahead. I need one trance, got a crypto ball in my hands. And to dispel them, Ebony must travel back in time, find young Voldemort, and, to coin a phrase, fuck the pain away.
Fuck the pain away.
The rationale being that he would not become Velociraptor Mort if he had never experienced the heartbreak, or as they said, suffering a Borkin hearth in his youth.
I love this. Until we start getting into it, I love it.
Should milking his meat not cleanse him of the evil, Ebony must kill him. As Ebony accepts her fate, she walks out of Sinestro's office to find her friends all waiting, anticipating. As they each ask her what transpired in the office, she elects to stand mute due to the joy of the occasion, what with all the reporters there cheesing her name, and folks setting off fireworks with an X. No one wants to be a gothic party pooper. So she puts on her invisibility coke. Apparently possession is now 9/10 of the law, so Vampire does not own that anymore. That's hers. And sneaked out with Vampire.
It's essentially like the hoodie trope of a relationship.
Yes.
Except with the robe. Like, that's her shit now. Like, when they break up, that's the family Bible.
It was vampires, and they're not in a relationship. She's dating Draco.
Aren't they poly?
Not yet.
I mean, they're poly bi.
I mean, as far as I am aware, no one has ever specifically said that the two of them are entangled, though they have had sex. So,
to be fair, though, and to argue, like, you've said it yourself in these summaries, like, what is actually said in until you summarize what we did the week prior, I have no idea what the fuck I'm reading.
What's funny is also several listeners have told me that they have no idea what's happening in the story until I do the summaries, because they'll listen and enjoy the fact that this is nonsense and don't remember anything from week to week.
So are you telling me that I am still accidentally the role of the audience?
You are officially the every person of our podcast.
Oh my goodness, I am
beautiful.
I'm not saying that everyone that listens to this show is not smart, but I feel so unintelligent all the time, so I will be the voice. The silent, what is it? The silent majority? Is that stupid
Indeed.
shit? Oh my god.
Oh god, no.
I'm not going to say anything else.
You're more the vocal minority right now, I think, is what we're angling at.
Yeah.
All right. So that brings us to this week's trauma-riddled, get it, installment of My Immortal. John, you had a question.
Do you still want me to read the script writer's notes when they appear?
I mean, if you're inclined to, I don't mind having things taken off my plate. So
sure,
feel free.
I will read the parentheticals and that kind of stuff.
All right, then.
I didn't mind.
And so now we bring you the Disinformed podcast presents My Immortal, as performed by the Disinformed podcast cast. Chapter 28.
Scriptwriter's note: in the previous chapter, Ebony and Prof. Sinister did Death's Tuchsin. Death's Tuchsin It's supposed to be Death's Touch Sign, a hand gesture originating from the Saga of Darren Shan book series, meant to display respect towards a vampire that is likely to be killed. I found this out on the My Immortal wiki, which does exist. Also, I found that Raven, the editor of My Immortal, also wrote her own fanfiction titled I'm Not Okay.
How predictable.
Yes.
Well,
because they do it a couple more times in the rest of this fanfic. So I just kept being like, "What the fuck is this?" So I looked it up.
Well, I'm not okay.
I'm not okay either.
Coincidentally,
okay.
Before we really get into this, I just listened to that album all the way through.
And
big fan. Thumbs up. I do
awesome.
not. I wouldn't say that I put it over the Deer Hunter, but it's a lot of fun to listen to.
It's kind of like if there is a similar thing in a different genre, like movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would put it akin to other genres of movies, but it's not in the same. It's not like a historical piece. It'd be more modern. But I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, it's fun. All right. Chapter 28. We went into a Blake room. The walls were black and portraits of gothic bands like MCR, GC, and Marlon Mason all over them. A big black coffin was in the middle. Red velvet lined the black box. There were 3 chairs made of bones with real skulls in them. I was wearing a Blake corset bar with purple stuff on it, fishnet sucking, and a Blake leather thong underneath. I sat down one of the chairs dispersedly. So did Draco and Vampire.
Are you okay?
Vampire asked, potting his albastard hand on mine. He was wearing black nail polish. I was wearing Blake nail polish with red crosses on it.
Yeah, I guess,
I said sadly. Draco also pot his hand on mine sexily. I smiled sadly with Blake lipstick.
The problem is, I have to seduce Volsamort. It'll have to go back in time.
Draco started to cry sadly. Vampire hugged him.
It's okay, Bobby,
Draco said finally.
But what about me? You're not gonna break up or anything, are you?
Of course not.
I gasped.
Really?
He asked.
Sure,
I said. We Frenched sexily. Vampire looked at us, longingly. Then I took off Draco's MCR shrift and seductively took of his pants. He was hung, lickest alone. He had replaced the vampire tattoo that said Inabi on it. Black roses were around it. I gasped. He looked exactly Lick Gerard way. Vampire took a Vidocamera. I had said it was okay before. I took of my clothes den. We were in for the rid of our liff. We started fraying as we climbed into the coffin. He put his Spock in my you-know-what, and passively, we did it.
I love you, Bobby. Oh, let me feel you. I need to feel you.
He screamed as we got an orgasm. Apparently you can order them off Amazon. We watched Vampire, filmed everything perfectly. Suddenly...
What the
fuck
are you doing?
It was Snope and Professor McGoggle. One.
Oh yeah, for the new people that aren't new, the ones are supposed to be exclamation points.
I have taken to making a point of specifically dropping out any inflection when a number is present to try to help differentiate. Hence why you will hear, I need to go over and see things. So we'll try to get there.
Also, consent is a big thing. I'm glad to see some consent in here finally.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
If you're going to get on the Vidocamera.
Yeah, you need to get a permission slip signed by your parents before you can go on the field trip. What the fuck are we doing is what we should be asking. Snope and Professor McGoggle.
Oh, my Satan.
Oh, my sweet pasty.
Well, if he's gonna drink.
Well, everyone, please take a hit. I'm gonna have a little coffee.
Oh my goodness.
I love you with all my
good.
me. Chapter 29.
Oh my Satan!
One.
We screamed as we jumped out of the coffin. Snap, Amid, Professor McGonagall started to shoot at us angrily.
Come now. One.
Preacher McGonagall yielded. We did, guiltily. We left the room, putting on our clothes. Snoop garbed the camel and put it in his pocket. Snoop garbed the caramel and put it in his pocket. I'm not sure which of those is fucking worse.
Hey, what the fuck? One.
Vampire shooted angrily.
Yeah, Buster, what the fuck are you gonna do with the fucking camera?
Draco demanded, all protective, looking at me longly with his gothic red eyes.
Look, Dumbledore knows your little secret, and if you do this again, then you will go to St. Mango's. So give back the camera. One.
The mystery of Mogik thinks he is crazy. There is no way they will believe him. Snoop laughed meanly.
Yes, so shut your mouth, you insolent fools,
Yelled Professor McGoggle. She made us come into a weird room.
It's spelled
I like how that was what broke you.
because if you read it properly,
yes,
it's like
She made us come.
into
We're-
a weird room, so they're just shooting ropes into an empty classroom.
We are all sophomoric jackasses here, and just the sight of the word cum makes all of us just uproariously laugh, and it's littered
You said
throughout
come.
this. Oh, God. All right. Yelled Professor McGoggle. She made us come into a weird room with white stones all around it. There were all these weird tools in it. Draco started to cry, all sexy and sexative. Get it? 'Cause he's a sex bomb. Oh my fuck. Get it? 'Cause he's a sex bomb. Lol, Tom Felnott's rules for live, but not as much as Gerard. You are sex on legs. I love you, Fokang, Roke, marry me. One. I started to cry tears of blood. It happens in Vampire Chronicles, Raven said, so fuck you. One. Vampire took out a black handkerchief and started to wipe my red eyes. And then he and Snoop both took out guns using magic. They started to shoot each other angrily. None of the bullets got on each other yet. I took out my wand.
Crucio!
I shouted. Snap started to scram. He drops the gun. But it was too late. Both of them had run out of ballet. I stopped the curse. Professor McGoogle did a spell so that we were all chained up. She took out a box of tools. Then she said,
Okay, Severus, I'm going to go now.
She left. Snap started to laugh. Evilly. Vampire started to cry.
It's okay, Nobby.
Said Draco.
Everything will be alright. Remember the video you took a snake?
Snape laughed again. And then he took out some whips. One.
Oh, that's how you do the exclamation after the one.
Well, I mean,
That
I
makes
tried.
sense.
Just
Yeah.
want to whip something in here, since
Yeah.
everybody else is getting whipped.
So, Michael, we're doing till 31? Or
Yes.
up to? So is this the cliffhanger? Or
No, the next one is the cliffhanger. Yes. Are you asking serious, or are
he
you
means the
joking?
next one will be the cliffhanger.
Okay.
No. Chapter 31 is one we will read.
Okay,
Oh.
so we're...
Oh my goodness, we have this conversation every week.
When are you going to learn that I don't listen to you?
This chapter and the next chapter are what we will read. Yes.
Okay, so I'm a little less scared then. Okay.
Now, I will also say John has very repeatedly attempted to, blow my head up, and not in that way, you pervs, about talking how I am the golden god here, which, funnily enough, so Steven, as of last week, sent me, because you said I had a golden voice and then referred to me as a god amongst men. He sent me the almost famous, the guitar player standing on the roof going, I am a golden god! Which I felt you would both appreciate.
I do.
So John repeatedly strokes my ego about how great I am. I want to actually shout out the real MVP of this, because Michael has had to transcribe this word for word. He can't even copy and paste. He has to look at a screen, write all this nonsense out on a weekly basis so that we have these things to read. So I want to take a small moment to applaud your efforts, sir, because this is goddamn ghastly. And if I had to sit and try to check every single word that I typed, which you must, because otherwise this is not going to function the way it does, that's tedious beyond belief. So kudos to you, my friend.
Yeah, round of applause for hitting chapter 30 and beyond. And you can definitely tell that it's a passionate project of yours. It's a little love baby. Little Ravenway love baby.
Huh. I will also say that Google has almost given up on spell checking for this document.
If there's anything to test its algorithm, it would be this.
It's like, you mean this? No, I did not specify that. I spelled suddenly with one D and no E. That is what I meant, and that is what I'm writing.
Listen, we're taking the 5 IQ train down to Baskin-Robbins for a bad time, so buckle up, kiddo.
I want a bubblegum flavored one. So we will also say...
That's a light pole.
Whose light pole?
Who the fuck is that?
Hello? Okay.
God?
Chapter 30.
Scriptwriter's note. This chapter is not safe for life. Or your IQ. You've been warned.
Or you've been warmed, depending upon, if you're reading it the way that Bobby would want you to.
Correct.
No!
One.
We screamed sadly. Snap stated loafing meanly. He took out a camera anvilly. Then he came towards Darko. Wah! One. Ah! He took some stones out of his pocket. He put da stones around Draco and knit a candle.
What the fuck are you doing?
I shooted angrily. Snoop laughed meanly. He pulled down his pants. I gasped. There was a dork mark on his you-know-what. Ah! One. Ah! He waved his wand, and a niff came. He gave the knife to me.
You must stab Vampire,
he said to me.
If you don't, then I'll rap Draco. One. No, you fucking bastard. One.
I yielded. But then Draco looked at me sadly, with his evil gothic red eyes that looked so depressant and sexy. He looked exactly like a pentagram. Look at it, 'cause I'm a Satanist. Between Kurt Cobain and Gerard. But then I looked at Vampire, and he looked so smexy too, with his gothic black hair. I thought of the time when we screwed, and the time I did it with Draco, and Dumbledore came, and the tame where Draco almost committed suicide and Vampire was so sportive. Snipe laughed angrily. He started to pray to Volxamort. He started to do an incapacitation, dancing around the Stokes, whipping Draco and Vampire. Suddenly, an idea I had.
Hey, Yoda?
Let me rephrase that. Suddenly, an idea I had. I closed my eyes, and using my vampire powers, I sent a telepathic message to Darko, and...
No.
I wanted to say it. I needed to say it. I closed my eyes, and using my vampire powers, I sent a telepathic message to Draco and Vampire so they would destruct Snape.
Dumbledore will get you.
Draco shooted.
Yeah, just wait until the fuck me. Yeah, just wait until the mystery find out 1-1.
Vampire yelled. Meanwhile, I took out my wand.
You ridiculous Don-da-da-der-heed. 1-1-1.
Snoop yielded. He took off all of Draco's clothes. Just as he was about to woohoo him,
Crossio! Oh.
I shited.
Just take it back.
Can we start? No, I gotta say it because I shited. She suddenly grew.
All right.
She suddenly grew balls.
Yes, indeed. I will. We'll go from the preceding line here.
Crossio!
I shited. Pointed. Fuck me. Let me go to the line before so I can at least compose myself here.
Okay. All right.
Snoop yielded. He took off all of Draco's clothes. Just as he was about to woohoo him,
Crossio!
I shited point my wound. Snoop screamed and started running around the room, screaming. Meanwhile, I grabbed my blank mobile and sent a text to Sirius. I stopped doing Crucio.
You dunderheed. 1-1-1. Am going to kill.
Shooted Snape, but suddenly, Cerberus came. Snake put the whip behind his bake.
Oh, hello, Sev. I was just teaching them something.
He lied. But suddenly, Lucian and Professor Trevelry came into the room, and they and Sirius unlocked the chains and put them around Snap. Then Professor Trevelry said,
"Come on, Emily, let's go."
And that brings us to the delicate flower that is chapter 31. Holy Mother of Pearl, this is getting dirty.
I told you it was not safe for life.
We got...
I meant it.
We got...
I shitted.
Snoop Wand just being floated around all over the place here. And whipping him like a rented mule.
Whip him real good.
Indeed. All right, chapter 31 it shall be. Chapter 31. I'm trying to figure out who the hell I should have Sirius be here because it's...
Yeah, I can't
right,
remember if he spoke or not.
I haven't done Sirius yet, if I recall. So,
Walter Brim.
No, you're
Walter
right.
Brimley.
You're right.
Oh, God. All right, here we go.
Please.
Chapter 31. I always knew you were on Voldemort's side, you son of a bitka. Boofy rocks. 111. Sirius said to Snape.
No, I'm not. I was teaching them something. 1.
Snap clammed.
Oh, fucking yeah?
I took some Blake Voldemort serum out of my pocket and gave it to Cerberus. He made Snap drink it. He did angrily. Then Luscious took out a tape recorder and started playing it while he did curses on Snap. Is this fucking Reservoir Dogs now?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why I came here tonight. Then Professor Sinister and Lucian made us get out with them while Snape told his secretes. Lucian took Vampire and Draco to the nurse after thanking me 1,000,000 times. Perfect. Professor Trevelry took me to a dark room. Now, I was going to go back in time to seduce Volxamort. Moving posters of MCR and Nrivana were all over. Hermione, Darkness, and Willow came too. Bloody Mary gave me a Blake bag from Tom Ridd's store.
Didn't you tell me they're the same fucking person? I'm sorry. I know.
Oh, they are. Yes.
No, Hermione and Bloody Mary are. Darkness is Jenny. Remember, we had a whole conversation about this.
Yes.
God,
sorry.
Weeks ago.
Sorry.
Yes. No, you're good. You're good. We're covering our bases because if you're confused, the listeners are confused.
Melissa and I have had the same experience. Every time I see Willow, if we're not going to canonically state, now Willow is, it's supposed to be sort of the avatar of her friend who is editing the thing. But to me, every time I see Willow, I think of Buffy Willow.
Oh, the
so
redhead
from Buffy, yeah.
There's also in How I Met Your Mother.
Yes, and American Pie, all those. Yes,
right.
So every time I see Willow, I'm like, are we doing a weird Buffy crossover here? Because there's a lot of vampires. I have a feeling this might be a conflict of interest.
They literally Cerberus said Buffy rocks.
I know, which is funny. It's like, why do we have people who are vampires who love a vampire killer? What the fuck is going on here? Okay, sorry. We've digressed and completely gotten off point. It's like Wilfred Brimley's running this show. All right.
Diabetes.
So, Hermione, Darkness, and Willow came too. Bloody Mary gave me a Blake bag from Tom Ridd's store.
What's in the bag?
I asked Professor Trevelry.
You will see,
she said. I opened the bag. In it was a sexy, tight, low smut black leather gothic dress. It had red corset stuff, and there was a silt up da leg. I put it on. My friends helped me put on Blake fishnets and Blake pointy boots Willow had chosen. Willow and Darkness helped me put on black eyeliner and blood red lipstick. You look fucking coy, bitch, Bloody Mary said. Bloody Mary said.
Fangs.
I said, get it?
Okay, now you're gonna go back in Tim,
said Professor Sinister.
You will have to do it in a few sessions.
She gave me a Blake gun. I put it in a strap on my fishnets like in Redisnet Evil. Then she gave me a black time tuner.
After an hour, use the time turner to go back here,
Professor Trevelry said. Then she and Bloody Mary put a pensive in front of me. Everyone went in front of it.
Good luck.
Good luck! One. Everyone shooted. Darkness and Willow gave me Death's Touch sin. Then I jumped sexily into da pensive. Suddenly, I was in font of Tescool. In front of me was one of the sexiest goth guys I had ever seen. He was wearing long black hair, kind of like Mikey Way, only black. He had gren eyes like Billy Joe Armstrong and pale wheat skin. He was wearing a black ripped-up suit with Vans. It was Tom Bombadil. 1, 1, 1, 1. So trees are going to start putting people to sleep in this story, right? That's going to happen?
You wish. You wish. Nah.
Man, what the fuck have you gotten us into?
Apparently it's now the petrified forest is where we're at as opposed to the forbidden forest.
In an author's note in the next chapter, which of course we're not reading, but it's easier to specify now, she does say that, yes, I spelled his name wrong, I don't care. Not in her words, but essentially, yes.
Everyone loves Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
Well, I think that certainly has been the jarring slap to the face that I have not experienced since Clarkdale.
Right?
Oh, goodness gracious. It just wait until the time shenanigans. I will ask you, because especially John will forget. I will ask you at the end of each reading from here on out, what time period do you think she traveled to?
Okay.
So,
1842.
Yeah. We'll just stick
in the
with
year
that.
of our Lord.
Actually,
Anno
it was
Domini.
1956, I believe, is where she traveled back. She will then meet Dr. Emmett Brown.
No. It's flashback 1979. Cool kids.
That's breakdown.
Never have the time. What?
I don't understand the reference, and I refuse to acknowledge it.
Well, maybe if you smirched some Poomkines, you would know. Billy Corgan. Why isn't anybody lusting over Billy Corgan in this fucking thing, by the way? What, bald men aren't attractive?
Because he's odd.
I mean, he's as gothic, vampiric looking as any of these other assholes. I don't know what the problem is.
With how the story has gone, it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't arrive in, future chapters and pulls off one of the most disgusting porn feats of all time, just lubing up his bald head and then just reverse birthing into somebody.
Well, can we have...
what the fuck?
John, we're not doing fuck, marry, kill with Jedis right now. John, would you then depict Satan, a.k.a. young Voldemort, as Billy Corgan?
Yeah, I guess I could... I guess that Satan could be voiced like this, because this is what Billy Corgan sounds like to me.
My name is Tom.
Except you can't see the tobacco lining the inner circles of my teeth through the podcast, but this is in fact Billy Corgan.
That makes middle name we shook hands. The world is a vampire.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like we just killed this episode. Just blunt for. I think we just Negan'd this episode. We're Glenn.
Yes, baseball.
The podcast is Glenn, and we are
Negan. The
Negan.
podcast has got an eye hanging out of the socket right now.
Maggie.
Like a booger you didn't know you caught.
Spoiler alerts.
Yeah, from 9 years ago, I'm sure, since The Walking Dead's been running since 1979.
Hey, do you think those neckbeards are still protesting the show because of that?
I hope so. I really do. Because
I love that so much. I know that's the weirdest way that we're going to end this is when...
Clip that. John loves the violence against Asian people.
What the fuck?
When that happened on The Walking Dead show, I will never forget that, all of a sudden, all these people that loved violence and loved the goriness of the show and just loved everything that sequence is basically about were up in arms like, what the fuck? I'll never watch it again. That was the most visceral thing that I've ever seen in my life. I'll never support your show.
Well,
and then they'll go watch Game of Thrones.
It's perfectly fine if the act is against the undead because they have ceased to be humans because they don't have consciousness. I'm going to argue that 80% of the American populace doesn't have consciousness as far as I've experienced.
I mean...
have you heard about the movement that started in Texas?
Oh, yeah, take us out on some depression.
If it involves cousins and cow pies, I'll believe it.
Nope, it's kind of similar to how the Mountainside Fitness Gym is suing Arizona.
Oh, bless them.
There is a movement in Texas of bar owners that are protesting the closures and stuff. Given what has been going on in our country the last couple of months, or mainly the last month, could you take a stab at what the movement is called?
Bowel.
Anti-mask lives matter.
Bar lives matter.
Fuck off. Go kill yourself, you fucking pathetic piece of shit. Oh my god.
I saw that and I'm like, no, this is bullshit. I had to search in multiple sources. It is a confirmed protest and movement trying to get their bars open up. And it was mainly started by, if I recall correctly, it was started by a person who forbid the wearing of masks in his bar.
It is a very, very lucky set of circumstances that I am not the Ozymandias of this world with my finger on the button, because it would be raining tentacles right now.
Fucking squids everywhere. It would be hentai central in some places.
You would have, yes, just tentacles in every orifice available to them as they exploded with the strangest gooey-gasm that you have ever seen in your life. And I think that is a very appropriate place for us to wrap up this Gucci taco of an episode.
Michael, you should be doing fucking cartwheels right now, because we are going to be just at, if not after some editing, under an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy about that.
Now, I know that we like to be long-winded, and it's fun just to talk as much as we possibly want, but in a perfect world, I think, Michael, you would appreciate an hour and a half.
Oh, I'd appreciate a 2-minute episode. No, I'm kidding.
Well, if it was all of just you talking, it would be 2 minutes.
No, it would not.
No, it would be a 3-hour thing because no one would stop me, and it would. If someone were to edit me and not myself edit me, it would be 2 minutes.
If I remember,
and I'm Michael.
The first time I heard H.G. Wells' name mentioned, it was in the midst of my mom beating me with a leather strap whilst she held me down and the dog penetrated me. And I remembered thinking, this must be the inspiration for Animal Farm, because I feel like an animal.
Are you just doing the monologue from Austin Powers?
Have I told this story before?
Shut up,
And then
Meg, adults
I
are talking.
suddenly shit at each other.
Ah!
There's gonna be fade outs. There has to be a fade out.
No,
eventually.
there's never going to be a fade. Never fade. I have sang.
Hashtag never fade.
I have now
Never
sang
surrender.
so much on this episode that we're going to have to watch for someone to sue me later on for using more than 15 minutes of Billy Corrigan voice. But
Just say it's a parody, because, I mean,
It is.
it pretty much was, yes.
oh, I was a parrot. Yes, I was parroting it.
Rock! It's a living!
Yes, well.
Rock, the state should give us all N95s. Rock.
Well.
Considering they have to call in nurses and stuff from out of state because we don't have enough.
Oh.
Ooh, hey, Rick!
All right.
Let's watch the end of the world! Oh, jeez!
Hey, fuckbeak, calm down. Let's get this thing over with.
Rock!
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for letting me be particularly coarse and cursy this evening. We're really just trying to get it out of our systems before we move on to Disinformed After Dark, which is going to be very interesting as we are going to have a couple things thrown in here, but we are actually going to get back on sequence so that After Dark will follow the episode as opposed to preceding the episode, which is something that's been talked about here. So there's going to be a little extra content, and we have a surprise coming your way. That you have already seen now by the time you've gotten to this. So we hope you enjoyed it, because we may have. I don't know. It may be the most
It's
colossal
a coin
blunder
toss.
ever. Yes. But
Time
for
travel.
the glorious Disinformed podcast, I am Shane,
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
and this is Bumblefuck, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off. Thank you for coming, kids. Don't worry, Ebony will clean it up in the past.
Brock?
You can't.
Brock!
You
Kill
can't.
me!
You can't have freckles on your asshole. Use a condom. Rock.